Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode podcast to talk about our favorite team, the Arizona Cardinals. Huge shout out to the people that are currently in the chat right now. We got Randall, we got Victor, we got Mason. What's up, y'all? Appreciate you guys for being here. We are going to talk about, obviously, the latest things that ended up happening here today within the Arizona Cardinals realm. We got jersey numbers, ladies and gentlemen. We got jersey numbers. So if you are curious to figure out what your favorite prospect is going to be wearing or what your favorite newly acquired player out of free agency is going to wear, the Arizona Cardinals finally made that announcement. And I'm only assuming these jerseys will probably be available sometime within the next couple of weeks, probably on Fanatics.com. I've already seen the number 1 Walter Nolan jersey already available on Fanatics. And I'm talking about that number 1 that has the actual number 1 on it for the obviously first round pick. So that one's already available, but if you're looking for a very specific jersey number that has been announced, we will also be discussing the Patrick Peterson interview that we made a video about yesterday. I ended up seeing a lot of the comments on there, and I kind of wanted to have more of an open discussion with everybody here in the chat. And on top of that, we will be discussing, are the Cardinals done in free agency, or are they going to be bringing in more players to hopefully bolster up some specific holes on that defensive line? I'm sorry, not defensive line, offensive line, and potentially a pass catcher as well. So we'll be diving into that a little later on. So good, fun-filled show for you guys today. Do me a huge favor, smack up the like button here on your way in. We are in the heart of the off season, where all we really all we have to look forward to right now is probably the schedule release. And I believe that was going to be announced that it's going to be released on March 14th. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's actually a Wednesday. So we got that. And, that's kind of it for Cardinals news for the next few, a couple months. Of course, training camp starts back up. We're going to be covering the training camp as well, see who looks good, who does not look good, and obviously get ready for the 2025 season, which there's a lot of Arizona Cardinal fans right now super uberly excited about what the Cardinals could potentially accomplish here in the 2025 season. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started here. Let's first talk about the jersey announcements for the Arizona Cardinals. And without further ado, these are going to be the newly acquired new jersey numbers for the new Cardinals. So now the Cardinals Twitter/X page, they ended up making this announcement probably 30 minutes before I ended up posting this and pretty much tagging them on here, letting you guys know here that obviously the new jersey numbers are going to be available. You got Will Johnson at number 0. That looks pretty sweet. I ain't gonna lie to you. That looks pretty darn sweet. You got Burke at 29, Crawford at 36, Simon at 50, Birch at 52, Connor at 58, and then you got Walter Nolan at 97. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be your new rookie class numbers right there. Honestly, the most exciting one to me is obviously going to be that Will Johnson number 0 there. The last one who wore a 0 on the Cardinals was probably Zach Pascal, and it wasn't really one of those things that we're going to, go out of our way to buy a Pascal jersey. But obviously, within the realm of Will Johnson, we're going to probably have a lot of people kind of reaching out for that Will Johnson jersey, a highly talented prospect coming out of Michigan and a potential lockdown corner for the Cardinals if he can stay healthy. Now, that's the big thing out there, right? Can he stay healthy? I know there's a lot of teams that ended up passing on Will Johnson because obviously the knee issue that he ended up having. And, there was a few teams that were willing to take the plunge. And I'm just glad that the Cardinals ended up taking a swing because that might be the most exciting picks that a lot of Cardinal fans are really excited about. So those are going to be your new Arizona Cardinals drafted players. 0 for Johnson, 29 for Burke, 36 for Crawford, 50 for Simon, 52 for Birch, 58 for Connor, and then you got 97, which is Walter Nolan. We do got a super chat coming our way as well from Robert. What's up, Robert? Appreciate you. He says, all I think the Cards need is a wide receiver and guard only. Yeah, we're going to be diving into that here pretty soon. There is still some players out there that the Cardinals could potentially reach out for, but that's the big question out there, right? Are the Cardinals going to do it, right? Or are they done? Because right now, looking at the roster, they might be done. They might be done. But you know what? Of course, it's always fun to kind of look ahead to see if the Cardinals could potentially add some potential players onto this roster. But like I said, we're going to be talking about that a little later on. So I absolutely appreciate the super chat. Let's move on over to the newly acquired free agents for the Arizona Cardinals. And that's going to be on the other side. And that's going to be number 7, which is your QB2, Jacoby Brissett. Josh Sweat going to be rocking the number 10, ladies and gentlemen. who's gonna go out there and get themselves a Josh Sweat jersey? Let me know in the chat. You also do got Akeem Davis Gaither at 27, and then Calais Campbell sticking with the number 3. That is absolutely amazing, man. That is absolutely 110%. I'm super excited about this Calais Campbell going back to number 93. Now, Justin Jones, I believe, is who it was, right? He ended up having to switch his jersey number because obviously they made some sort of deal with Calais. So he's back at 93, staying at the desert, his rightful place. He never should have left to begin with. So that's absolutely amazing. So if you have those old Calais Campbell jerseys, just dust them off. He's going to be wearing that same number, ladies and gentlemen. And then you got Dalvin Tomlinson, number 94. So all automatically just looking at these freaking new numbers, y'all, like Walter Nolan at 97, Calais Campbell at 93, 94 Dalvin Tomlinson. That's just an automatic upgrade right there. Like that is just cherry on top of the ice cream. This is going to be a very, very fun year. And this is the new jersey numbers here for the Cardinals. Let's go, let's go, let's go. If honestly, if I were to get one, like if you're going to ask me right now if I was going to get a new jersey, probably that Will Johnson one looks pretty sweet. I don't have a number 0 jersey, so that would be pretty sweet either in the color rush, or I really do like those away jerseys, the white jerseys, the new ones from the Cardinals. So maybe. I just got myself a Marvin not too long ago, so it might have to take a little bit to get that Will Johnson jersey. But yeah, these are the new numbers for your new Arizona Cardinals. Absolutely amazing. Let's move on over to actually, let's do this. Let's read a couple comments here in the chat. We got Lindo. What's up, man? He says 10, a little weird. Yeah, it's a little odd. I think he was used to wearing number 19 with the I think it was number 19 if I'm not mistaken, right? He was 19 with the he actually had 2 numbers with the Eagles. Let me double check here real quick. Josh Sweat was number Yep, he was 19 and 94 with the Eagles. A little odd. It is, yeah, and I think people kind of correlate with obviously D-Hop, but yeah, I mean, new regime is going to be interesting. Lindo says zero's dope, 97 a dog. Absolutely. Let's keep it with the chat here. We also got Will Johnson with the 0 is gas. Yep, there you go. Jake Moore with there you go. Super chat coming our way from Jake. He's saying this our biggest issue now is weird jersey numbers. Yeah, what a time to be alive, right? What a time to be alive, Cardinal fans. This is crazy, crazy, crazy that we're now talking about big announcements, and the big announcements is jersey numbers, right? What a time to be alive. Absolutely. Appreciate the $2 donation, Jake, 110%. Right on the head right there. Let's move on over to the topic of Patrick Peterson. We did make a video about this yesterday, and if you guys do not know what I'm talking about, Patrick Peterson ended up taking to the Up and Adams show, which is Kay Adams, former host of Good Morning Football a long time ago. Like she hasn't been on Good Morning Football for a very long time, but she ended up making her new podcast called Up and Adams, and she ended up having Patrick Peterson on her podcast. And she ended up asking him about the whole Kyler Murray situation because, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, like the whole Patrick Peterson and Kyler Murray kind of squabble between the two, beef, I guess if you want to call it. It was a big deal. It really was a big deal, right? Former Arizona Cardinal. I call him legend, and honestly, I guess it just depends on when you started becoming a Cardinal fan. And I became a Cardinal fan when I was a junior in high school, and that probably would have taken me somewhere in the mid 2000s of when I became it. So Patrick Peterson getting picked up here in the early tens, in a first round pick. He was one of the best prospects we've seen come in a long time, and one of the best Cardinals to ever do it, right? Arizona Cardinals to ever do it. So I guess there's a lot of attachment that I have to him as a player, seeing him, kind of run around the field and doing amazing things. But he ended up coming on a few years back in 2022, saying the quote was, "Kyler only cares about Kyler." Now obviously blew up. Kyler Murray responded. He ended up saying he was on some weird stuff. And he told him that if you had an issue with him, you should have texted him. You have his number and blah, 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 blah. But this is the latest thing that Patrick Peterson ended up saying on the Up and Adams show when Kay Adams ended up asking him, does he have a relationship with Kyler Murray, now current quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals? And this is what Patrick Peterson had to say about Kyler Murray.
Chemistry with Marvin Harrison Jr. I recently read he's being sort of outspoken about what he wants to do. You've been outspoken. You've just been honest. You've been a good OG veteran and been honest about what you've thought about Kyler Murray. Is there a relationship there? What's the relationship like?
Yeah, there's no relationship there, but there will be. I know that I was a little bit outspoken when I did say certain things, and I was kind of in the wrong. But at the end of the day, I know I'm a man, he's a man, and I definitely want to make that better. Because at the end of the day, that was just talked out of frustration. That could have been something that me and him could have been able to, talk about. And he'll tell you, I left a note in his locker room when I left. You know what I mean? Just
Really?
telling him, yeah, just telling him how the team is going to be as successful as he leads them to. And I just saw some things from afar that I seen in the locker room, and that's just where that came from. But he has been doing a much better job of his body language, his leadership, and it's just going to continue to make that team that much better because they follow his every move, and he just have to understand that.
So you see a bit of a different Kyler now than you saw a few
A
years
hundred
ago.
percent.
So when it comes down to obviously what Patrick Peterson had to say about Kyler Murray, we get a plethora of different opinions when it comes out to obviously Patrick Peterson coming out here. We have some people out there saying, "Oh, how convenient!" Right, the time that he ends up saying this, how convenient now, right? So I have two comments that I'm going to highlight here on this chat right now on this live stream, which seems to be the perfect example of how people's different opinions differ from amongst each other, right? So we got my guy Michael in the chat here saying Patrick Peterson is extending an olive branch. No one should hold a grudge. Time heals all, right? So we got this side of the coin or the argument, which I lean more on this side. And I think it might be because obviously I was a Cardinal fan before K1 came in. So when he ended up saying those comments, like I made a video about it. I reacted to it as well, but I never really ever had any will ill against Patrick Peterson. Was I a little kind of taken back when he said that? A little bit, right? Because at that time I was all in, right? I was all in on nothing can go wrong. Now obviously 3 years later, we're all talking about playoffs or bust right now, but expectations are a good thing to have with your NFL team. But we got this side of the coin here from Michael Lyon, which I kind of lean a little bit more towards. And then you got this other side of the coin here, which I don't think any side of the argument is wrong. I really don't. I think however you feel is going to be how you feel, right? At the end of the day. So we got my guy Big Bird here in the chat saying making amends is cool, but the timing feels a little suspect. Like he's only doing it to make himself look better since he wants to become a media personality, right? And that's the thing too. I think at the end of the day, however you decide to look at it, business goes on. It doesn't matter personality or feelings or anything like that, right? Business is going to go on as usual, right? So is this an attempt for Patrick Peterson to try to get himself involved in media? Because I did end up hearing um, the Up and Adams show or the Up and Adams, like the full interview from Patrick Peterson, and he does want to get involved in the media side of it all, right? He does want to actually be a play-by-play guy, right? That's what he ended up saying. So, is this going to be extended an olive branch to get better within the Cardinals organization? Probably. I mean, maybe, right? But I mean, also at the end of the other side of the coin, right? It's been years removed from him not being involved with the Cardinals organization because you got to keep in mind too, like you got players like P2 and you got players like Buda Baker that it's emotional for them, right, to lose games, right? So sometimes an outburst can come out, sometimes for the better. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at, Buda Baker with that video that came out where he's pretty much like yelling and very emotional, saying like this stuff hurts, right? I hate losing at home, right? We gotta do better, right? So there's that, but there's the other side of the coin where Buda Baker did request a trade request as well. But at the end of the day, like we also got to remember this is a business, right? A lot of these players that really do care, they want to win. They want to win in the NFL. So did P2 kind of jump out of the line a little bit? I mean, as a guy that, you know, you know, covers this team, I feel like everybody's entitled to their opinion at the end of the day, but I do believe there's a brotherhood and a bond and kind of a secret code within the locker room, right? You don't let things like that kind of come out, right? Now, granted, Patrick Peterson was not a Cardinal when he ended up saying those things, so he didn't really have the kind of backlash that he would have had if he was a Arizona Cardinal at that time, right? So it almost was one of those things where we were reacting to all of these things that were kind of going against K1, Kyler Murray, in real time. And then, you got the people on the side of the coin where they were believing in what Patrick Peterson was saying. And then you got the the K1 truthers, right? That they're like, oh no, this guy's just a hater, and they completely painted a bad picture on Patrick Peterson. Now, I do see here in the chat as well that there is some people that were turned off by Patrick Peterson way before he ended up leaving, right? Obviously, the PED situation where he ended up kind of getting suspended, which is very, very unfortunate. And then obviously people don't feel like he was as great as he once was in the tail end of a season with the Cardinals, and he ended up finding a new home with different teams in the NFL, right? There's multiple different ways to obviously look at this whole situation, but you know, it does feel like Patrick Peterson is trying, right? It does seem like he is trying to obviously extend, because he also mentioned that no, there's no relationship between them right now, right? But there will be. He does come out and say there will be a relationship. Now, like I said, just like my guy Big Bird in the chat, how convenient is a little suspect? Is he trying to get in the Cardinals organization and work more on the media side of it all? Honestly, I would like that. I think that would be really freaking cool if Patrick Peterson did something like that personally. But at the end of the day, foot, football goes on, right? The NFL is going to go on. His personal life outside playing football on Sundays is going to go on. He does want to go in the media, and maybe this might have been an attempt for him to kind of make amends with the Cardinals organization. But I mean, even the Cardinals organization, they retired him, regardless of before he said this or not, right? Before he said this or not, the Cardinals retired him as a Cardinal, which I still do think it's a good thing, because we haven't had a guy added on the Ring of Honor in a very, very long time. He wants to be put in the Ring of Honor. I do think he deserves to be put in the Ring of Honor, but he did say he's not going to go up there before Larry Fitzgerald. But Larry is not, obviously, he hasn't retired yet, so you really can't do it. So he hasn't filed the paperwork to do so. So it's a big, big, broad topic when it comes down to Patrick Peterson and the whole Kyler Murray debate and the beef amongst each other. We'll have to kind of wait and see how it pans out. It really will. I don't think we've seen K1 come out and make any, response, but he doesn't need to, right? He doesn't have to do that. Like, it's not one of those things where like, oh, what's your response to this? At the end of the day, it is what it is. He's probably moved past it. The only reason why P2 has mentioned is because obviously he was asked about it on the Up and Adams show when he came on Kay Adams' podcast. So at the end of the day, I don't have any ill against it, but I understand the other side of the coin. I get where Cardinal fans that do not like P2 anymore. I understand the stance of it all as well. So let's go ahead and read a few of those comments here on the chat. We got Victor in the chat, says P2 was upset with the Cardinals. However, he had a point. Now he had time to reflect and wants to squash everything, especially that he's retiring as a Cardinal. You have to forgive and move on. I like this. I really. See, Victor and my guy Michael on the chat here a little earlier. This is the way I feel about it as well, right? At the end of the day, what's the point, right? Life's too short, right? Squash it, right? As men or as humans, sometimes you'll have a debate, right? In a heat of moment. This is a very, very emotional time. And this is coming from a guy that does not play this game, but is very, very emotionally invested in the NFL season, right? And, my whole day gets ruined because of the Cardinals lose, right? My wife's fully aware of that. It's very unfortunate. Hopefully, I get to the point where it doesn't ruin my day or it doesn't ruin my week. But, it is what it is. It's an emotional time. And I can only imagine that these players that actually do care, you know, sometimes the emotions get the best of them. So I agree with Victor here, right? At the end of the day, just squash it, right? Just squash it. But here's the thing: like, I'm not expecting K1 to come out and says, "Oh, I forgive you, buddy." No, I don't think I'm not expecting that either. I can care two shits about that, right? But if Patrick Peterson does somehow become involved with the Cardinals organization, they're going to have to at least cross paths, right? They don't need to be buddies. They don't need to be best friends. They don't need to take each other out on dinners, right? But at the end of the day, I think what the fan base would like to see is a squash, right? Because it kind of pains me to see a portion of the fan base basically have all these bad things to say about a guy that was great for this organization. One of the best first round picks in the 2010s, and it's not even close, right? One of the best lockdown corners. And here's the thing: after Patrick Peterson, we have never ever had a lockdown corner like him. We're all hoping that Garrett Williams could potentially be that guy, but he's more of a slot guy, right? He's going to be hopefully a lockdown corner in the slot. Unless the Cardinals decided to unleash him on the outside, which I probably don't think that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, it's been P2, one of the best players to ever do it. And I do believe he deserves to be in the Ring of Honor. And I like the fact that he's retiring as a Cardinal. I really do. Let's continue with the chat. You guys having up really, really good comments here. I love the debate. Not even a debate. I love the difference of opinions out there. Let's go with my guy, 23K. What's up, man? He says, AZ Sports fan, do you think Patrick Peterson should be a coach or be a part of the Cardinals front office? I think he's gonna try to find a way to be involved in the media. Is at least that's what he said, right? On this specific video or podcast clip from the Up and Adams show, he does say that he wants to get involved in the media. That's what he wants to do. Like that's what he wants to do outside of obviously now that he's retired. He wants to get involved in the media, and he also mentioned that he would love to do like a play by play. Like that's something he wants to get involved as well. Now, is that with the Cardinals? Who knows, right? I mean, Ron Wolfley ended up stepping down for the Arizona Cardinals, so you will not be hearing that as well. So I don't know if there's any plans. I don't know of anything like that, but there's usually something that comes along after, especially when a player with the drama that kind of came about that with him and Steve Keim, right? And now Michael Bidwill is fully involved in making him retired as a Cardinal. So maybe you never know. This could be something that really happens for Patrick Peterson. And like I said before, I'm one of those guys that squash it, man. Just squash it. I would love to see him in an Arizona Cardinal somehow, right? Like in the organization somehow. Like when Adrian Wilson was involved in the front office, I like that. But that was the last regime, right? That was the last regime. Now that the new regime is here, I don't think Adrian Wilson is involved anymore. If anybody can correct me here in the chat, I know he was a part of an interview here not too long ago, obviously talking things all things Arizona Cardinals. But I would love that would be cool for a former great player like Patrick Peterson to be involved with the Cardinals organization. But that's just my 2 cents in the whole situation, right? That's my 2 cents. We got my guy Money. What's up, Money? I will. Bruce can be our offensive coordinator. That's funny. Arturo says, anyone else happy Calais got his old number back? Yes, 110% I am. Yep. 110%. For the new people that are joining in just right now, do me a huge favor for you guys that are just joining in. Smack the like button here on your way in. Absolutely appreciate you guys for being here. Right now, we're sitting with 23 likes with over 70 people here on the chat. Smack at the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys for being here. But for the new people that are coming in here, yes, the new jerseys have been announced for our new free agent acquisitions as well as our draft picks this year. So here we go. 93 being Campbell, 94 being Tomlinson, 27 being Gaither, 10 being Sweat, 7 being Jacoby, and then you got Walter Nolan at 97, 58 being Connor Hayden, or Connor Hayden, right? Hayden Connor. And then you got Birch at 52, 50 Simon, 36 Crawford, 29 Burke, and then 0 Will Johnson. And Will Johnson's the one that everybody's really excited at 0 right there. So, yeah, the new jerseys have been announced, but right now we are discussing the Patrick Peterson situation on the interview that ended up coming out yesterday. So, let's keep it with the chat. Eddie, what's up, Eddie? People just need to understand what he said about Kyler was true at that time. Well, keep in mind too, ladies and gentlemen, that like it almost kind of feels like we got amnesia, right? Like we were talking about this too, and like I said before, like on my last video that I posted, like this isn't something that this was far fetched, like something that completely came out of nowhere. No, like I understand where people are coming from, where they feel some sort of defensiveness over their QB, and that's fine, right? Have the defensiveness, especially if this comes from anybody else within, like outside the Cardinals organization, right? But everybody has been talking about the bad body language that Kyler Murray has had in his career of being a Cardinal. Now, since Jonathan Gannon has been here, that has improved. That's gone better, and I hope it just gets better and better and better, especially going into his year 3 with Jonathan Gannon. Now, year 7 as an NFL quarterback. So, Eddie, yeah, I mean, hit the nail on the head right here. This is not like it's foreign stuff that came out of nowhere. Like this is stuff that we've all been talking about. So he's gone better. He's gotten 110% better. So as of right now, all we can hope for is all we can hope for right now is some sort of amends. Like I said, they don't need to be best friends. I don't think Patrick's looking for that. I don't think K1's looking for that. But at the end of the day, if Patrick Peterson does somehow become a part of the Cardinals organization, doing God knows what media, who knows, they're gonna have to have some sort of communication with each other. But we'll see. We'll see. K1, K23, sorry, 23K5. Good lord. He says, I'm on the hot seat with Kyler Murray right now. Playoffs or be traded. We'll talk about that a little later on once we get closer to the season. It is playoffs or bust for me as a Cardinal fan. It's we got to like it's time. It's time. But we'll be diving more into it a little later on, I promise. Valley Vibes. It's different when a player he has played with says it, and when And when fans say it. Yeah, true, exactly, because you're right, 110%. There's more weight, right? There's more weight, and that's why there was shocks and waves when P2 said it, right? That's why there's more shocks and wave when P2 said it, as opposed to a random podcaster that that covers the Arizona Cardinals, right? Like it's more waves for them to do it because obviously they know him personally, right? They're in that locker room, so you're 110% correct. It adds more shock waves amongst the NFL than somebody that's been saying it, like a podcaster and stuff like that, or a media member. 110%. I love P2, but he shouldn't have said that. Fair, fair. Um, let's do one more comment, and then we're going to be diving into, are the Cardinals going to add more players in free agency? So one more comment. Let's go with Fury. What's up, Fury? He says, I definitely agree with him going off on Keim and the owner back then, but when he trashed the franchise and SHIT on it, when he left, that was not cool. Should have kept his beef with them, not the franchise. Well, this is one thing that I always kind of mentioned. I don't think he's even any like are you talking about when he talked about K1? Like, are you correlating that with the franchise when you're talking about K1? Because if that's the case, and that's the way your mind process works, then okay, then I can see where you're coming from. But I don't think he's ever said anything bad about the organization itself. His beef was with Steve Keim, right? Has he mentioned some things about the way that it was run during the Steve Keim tenure? Yes, he has. But I don't know. I never get the sense that he really said anything bad about the Cardinals organization or even the fan base. But if you're correlating K1 being the franchise at that time because he was a quarterback or he's still the quarterback, then okay, I can see where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming from sure, for sure. Okay, perfect. Well, great conversation. Great conversation. I wanted to kind of have an open discussion here. Obviously, when it comes down to making the videos, you can't really have a back and forth discourse because, you don't get notifications when it comes down to comments. You can respond to a comment here and there, but then after that, it almost kind of feels like it goes by the wayside, right? Because the notifications, they're not very good with YouTube. So I wanted to have an open discussion here with you guys here that are available here in the chat. Up and foremost, thank you guys so much for being here. I know right now we are in the deadness of the off season, so appreciate you guys for tuning in on a random Wednesday. Appreciate y'all. I really do appreciate y'all. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive right into it. I also want to talk about here, will the Cardinals add more players in free agency? This year, we have gone through a grip of, multiple different moves happening with free agency and the draft. And right now, the Arizona Cardinals are in a very, very good situation where the upgrades that we've added on the trenches is is absolutely nuts, man. It's absolutely nuts. Like we've absolutely 110% upgraded this team, especially the defensive side of the ball, and it's not even funny. Not even funny, not even close. So, really really excited to see what the Cardinals can do here in free agents, but this is the question, right? Are the Cardinals going to add more players? Right now if you look at the roster, right, obviously using the ESPN depth chart, I don't know if they will, right? Like my guy Robert earlier in the chat said that there's really only two concerns coming his way, right? The two concerns are the wide receiver core, and I'm assuming he's talking about wide receiver 3, and then the guard position, right? Because there's a lot of unknown, primarily within that Isaiah Adams position, which is the right guard, right? There's a lot of unknown, and that's kind of what I circle back to as well. There's a little bit of unknown with Keem Davis Gaither, but the Cardinals seem in on him. So if they're confident with him, then let's not talk about it. They also added Cody Simon as well, captain out of Ohio State with the fourth round pick. If they're confident with developing him and potentially him being, taking the helm later on, a couple years from now, I'm cool with that. So, but right now on the offensive side of the ball, being the fact that the Arizona Cardinals did really, really focus on, you know, making their biggest, weakest point in the 2024 season, probably one of the strongest point now or core, it was that defensive line. They did a facelift, right? An absolute overhaul in that defensive line. And if they could stay healthy, it's going to be a really, really good defensive line. But it does bring a lot of question marks out there. And are the Cardinals going to do anything, for the remaining of from here into the start of the season? Because like my guy Robert in the chat said, wide receiver is still somewhat of a concern, right? The right guard position is still somewhat of a concern. The right tackle position still might somewhat be of a concern as well. It does feel like Jonah Williams, which is going to be the guy that we ended up bringing in, which I feel like it's probably one of the big splash plays that we ended up doing last year. Um, he wasn't as great as we thought he was going to be, right? He played solid in the Bills game. He got hurt. Kelvin Beachum came in. Beachum did a pretty solid job. But then when he got hurt and he came back, he just wasn't the same. That right guard position, and of course, Will Hernandez getting hurt as well. That whole right hand side of the line dealt with a lot of injuries, and it was very, very unfortunate. But for the most part, as a whole, I feel like the offensive line did pretty solid. Like they played solid. They weren't the best. I'm not gonna say top 10 or anything like that, but they were among probably solid average with all the stuff that was going on and all the injuries. They held their own. Like they did pretty darn solid in my opinion. But that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, right? Well, what happens with the Arizona Cardinals? Are they going to be in position to potentially go after, let's say for example, if Will Hernandez is still available, right? The Cardinals going to go that route because that seemed to be the safety blanket that we had for the past several years. And right now it seems like where the Cardinals are going to go is they're probably going to stay with Isaiah Adams, the third round pick that they ended up using last year, and the wide receiving core, right? Michael Wilson, love. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously love as well. But that Greg Dortch position, and I've seen somebody out there saying, oh, we're giving a lot of hate over to Greg Dortch. And that's not the intent, and that's not what we're trying to do. I think a lot of people in the chat can say to themselves that they love Greg Dortch. They really do. I think Greg Dortch is a phenomenal player, plays bigger than size, and he's a dog, right? But I think right now where Cardinals fans are kind of saying to themselves is I'm just very surprised that the Cardinals organization decided to run it back with the same wide receiving core that we had in 2024, right? When some of the blame could go to the wide receivers as well, right? Now we are going into a year two where Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting bulked up. I'm not sure if you saw those videos or those photos being circulating around the internet where, Marvin Harrison Jr. is putting a lot of muscle on, right? So hopefully that helps with the contested catches. Hopefully that gets him more physical. So that's at least hoping what's going to happen. But Marvin, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones came back as well. Greg Dortch is back. I would love to see Xavier Weaver. I'm not going to lie to you, but will he get the nod over Greg Dortch? We'll have to kind of wait and see how it shakes out. We did add some other people on there before free agency in Quez Watkins and Tristan Jackson, but a lot of those guys really are not needle movers, right? They're not guys that are going to be like, oh man, this is going to be a solidified spot for you. This is going to be great, right? That slot position, which is that wide receiver number 3 position, is still kind of up in the air, right? And that whole right hand side of the line is still a little concerning. It's still a little concerning right now to the day. So will the Cardinals add more pieces? I mean, the only spot I can see the Cardinals potentially adding a piece is probably that guard position, right? And potentially a wide receiver. Because I do believe that Jonah Williams, I think they're sold on him. If he can stay healthy, I think they have all the confidence in the world that Jonah Williams could potentially be that guy, right? And here's the thing: if Jonah Williams doesn't work for the Cardinals, guess what? I understand Kelvin Beachum got another year older, but we also did use what is it, a late round pick on Christian Jones, which they were really high on. That has a potential to probably swing to the right hand side if he can just get more reps under his belt. Christian Jones, I believe, he was out of Texas last year. Maybe he can be a potential guy for us. We did add some undrafted guys as well. Josh Fryer. And we added somebody else, but I cannot remember his name. I know his last name is Jeremiah Byer as well. So we added some people on the UDFAs, but there's still a little bit of concern, right? Especially if injuries kind of start piling against the Cardinals, and we don't want that, right? Obviously, we're not on board for that. So looking at the available free agents right now, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of available free agents right now. And it's really interesting, right? Let me see here. Is Jedrick Wills signed anywhere? No, he's not. Oh wow, is Jedrick Wills a free agent? Oh wow, he is. Oh wow. Okay. Was there? Wow. Okay. Sorry. Jedrick Wills. Yeah, I mean, still a free agent right now, or at least as far as what I'm seeing here. I mean, he was a pretty solid left tackle for the Browns. I guess they just made a business decision and they moved off of him. But I mean, oh, sorry. Continue to talk about what I was talking about. There's not a lot of great pieces in free agency. But I mean, when you get to this point right here in the offseason, usually a lot of those guys are kind of picked away in the regular free agency. Let's go ahead and take it to the chat, what you guys are saying here in the chat. I'm hearing Henry Ruggs is Nah. I doubt it. I doubt that's happening. He might be training. I don't know if he's coming back into the NFL though. Um, Jake in the chat says Steve climbs and now. Good lord. Good lord. Um, Jones didn't do bad late in the season for a rookie. Jones. You're talking about oh, Christian Jones? Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Maybe Christian Jones could be that guy too. Maybe he can move on over to the right hand side for the Cardinals. We've seen some things from Christian Jones. We've seen some things of Isaiah Adams. Not a big sample size to say, okay, I feel all confidence in the world. But yeah, I mean we did use a fifth round or sixth round pick last year on Christian Jones. Yeah, they might be high on him, so maybe he can be the future for the Cardinals moving forward. Jonah Williams right now is probably a big concern. Keenan in the chat says we need a receiver who's available. The only receivers that I see available right now that I can feel like can make an impact right now, let me look here. Okay. So the top 3 receivers that I'm seeing that are available right now is Amari Cooper, which, you know, is in his 30s already, early 30s. He didn't really do very well with the Bills, and I think that might be what like kind of hurt his market. Yeah, cuz if you're not doing good with with Josh Allen, top 3 quarterback in the league, I don't think that really kind of paints a good picture. But Amari Cooper is available right now. Um, Elijah Moore, which I really really do like Elijah Moore, and he's still only 25 years old. I think he was a former second or third round pick, and I believe it was to the Jets if I'm not mistaken. But he's got all the ability in the world to succeed in the NFL, but just obviously needs to get the opportunity. Elijah Moore is available, and then Keenan Allen. He's 33 years old right now. He spent last year with the Bears. And he had some production here and there, but like if you're looking for somebody to continue the youth, it's the best option right now is probably going to be Elijah Moore, right? And that's the type of guy you're probably looking for, especially if you want to keep Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside. Elijah Moore might be the best option available right now. But like I said, it's slim pickings, y'all. It's slim pickings right now. There's not a lot of good options unless the Cardinals somehow get, you know, production from their current wide receiving core, like somebody like Xavier Weaver or Simi Fehoko. Remember, we ended up adding Simi Fehoko as well. We got him as well. Maybe Tajon Palmer, late round guy that we ended up getting last year, which I don't think he made the 53. I think he was on the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. Quez Watkins. We ended up bringing in Bryson Green out of as a UDFA, 6'3", 213 out of Wisconsin. Like, we got these guys, but like, I don't know, like, are going to be difference maker, right? Like, the only guy that I feel confident in that number 3 spot, obviously Dortch, Weaver, you never know. Maybe Fehoko or maybe Jones can kind of surprise us. You never know what's going to happen there. But yeah, those are the big wide receivers that are available right now. And like I said, big. Like I'm putting quotations on that, right? Those are the big guys that are available. There's not a lot of guys available right now, and it's slim pickings as of right now. So if the Cardinals do go after somebody, I just hope it's Elijah Moore. You know what I mean? I just hope it's Elijah Moore. For the guard position right now, who's available for guard? Brandon Sheriff might be the best guard that's going to be available, but he's also 33 years old as well. So he's up there in age. Um, I don't know. I don't know. You know, whenever I see the comment out there is, will the Cardinals add somebody in in free agency still? I mean, it just depends on what Monty decides to do. Like I'm looking at this roster right now. Obviously, I feel a lot more confidence in the defensive side of the ball than I do in the offense, which is completely night and day different. That's a completely like flip you on your ear. When we were talking about going into 2024, I was more confident in the offense than I was on the defense, and now that's been overhauled. So now I'm more confident on the defensive side of the ball than I am on the offensive side of the ball. But overall, I'm excited. This is gonna be a good 2025 season. I'm super excited about it. Let's keep it with the chat. Kevin Para says Elijah Moore. That might be the best option out there right now. And I think the last I heard, he was meeting with the Bills, but I don't think there was a contract extended to Elijah Moore. So for what it's worth, he's still available. Will the Cardinals do it? I don't know. Not a lot of good people or players still available right now. But for what it's worth, guard and wide receiver is really kind of the big kind of unknown right now for the Cardinals. Let's keep reading with the chat. We got Lindo. What's up, Lindo? Saying Campbell, Robinson, and edge rushers Nolan and Tomlinson are defensive tackles. The Sweat, Browning, outside linebackers. Yup. Let's keep it going on the chat. Randall says, I hope we at least work out Elijah Moore. I hope so too. I mean, we worked out what's his name? Asante Samuel Jr. Remember that? Remember that news, ladies and gentlemen? Asante Samuel Jr. was worked out with the Cardinals here, and everybody was freaking celebrating. I even came out and said, "Don't let him leave. Don't let him leave that facility." Right? I was like, "Don't let him leave that facility." But like, truth be told, here, ladies and gentlemen, the Arizona Cardinals right now are sitting in a situation where like we have so much depth at the cornerback spot right now. So much depth at the cornerback spot right now that like is insane. And so much depth at um the defensive line position. It's insane. It's insane an overhaul we've been seeing. It's insane. Randall says, might be a hot take, but I think Zay Jones is a good, solid wide receiver. I'd like to see him get more over to. I don't think this is far fetched to say. I really don't. I don't think this is a far fetched thing to say. I think you are in your right to feel this. So I think Zay Jones can potentially be a really good guy. And he was actually a slot receiver and an outside guy in college. So if he could be a guy that's obviously over 6 foot and can be used more that way, then let's rock and roll. But it's all opportunity, right? It's all opportunity. Drew Petzing needs to open up the playbook. That's one thing I will say, right? Drew Petzing needs to open up the playbook, and we need to be able to be obviously a dominant run team, but also have the ability to pass the ball and be a really good passing team as well. Because if you're good at both, you're going to win a lot of games, especially with the defense that we added. Victor in the chat says, we might be able to get value receiver after the 53 roster cuts. Let's run it with Weaver for now. Look at you. Look at you, Victor. Yeah, good call, right? Good call. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't jump on somebody just because you're panicking. That's a good call out. Good call out. Yeah, after the 53-man roster cuts, what happens obviously closer to the 2025 season, you're going to be seeing some guys get cut. And yeah, maybe the Cardinals do pounce in that situation right there. Good call out. Goat Prater is gone. Absolutely. Yep. We do got Chad Ryland, the new GOAT for the Arizona Cardinals. I did think it was a little weird that Matt Prater there was not really a big hoopla about Matt Prater leaving. Obviously, what he's accomplished in the NFL, not with the Cardinals, but like obviously his career with the NFL, there wasn't really a big hoopla about it. And it almost kind of feel like the transition was seamlessly, but it's kind of unfortunate because Matt Prater is one of the best to do it, right? Best kickers here in the NFL. So really weird, but I think Chad Ryland is going to take the helm for the Cardinals moving forward. So let's read a couple more comments. And then we're going to be closing up shop. Appreciate you guys for being here. We got Michael in the chat says, don't forget, we get Trey as a weapon too. Trey McBride, you're 110% correct. How can I forget? One of the best man to do it. One of the best tight ends in the NFL. How can I forget? Big Bird, what's up, man? He says, Drew Petzing opened up the playbook in those last 2 games for sure. Some interesting route concepts. Saw some good numbers in those games. Yeah, it almost kind of felt like we didn't have anything to lose in those last 2 games because we were eliminated after the Browns game was, or at least for the most part, we were eliminated after the Browns game. But after, obviously, we swept the 49ers, which let's not forget that, ladies and gentlemen, we swept the 49ers. And then the Rams game wasn't bad. The Seahawks games were bad. But those last 2 games of the season, you're 100% correct. It almost kind of did feel like it was we opened up the playbook because we had nothing to lose, right? That's what it felt like. We had nothing to lose. So, yeah, at the end of the day here, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what the Arizona Cardinals decide to do. But a lot of stuff ended up coming down the pipeline. Obviously, a lot of things that we ended up discussing in this live stream. We got the brand new Arizona Cardinals jerseys finally announced. Definitely really cool about that. Excited about what the Cardinals are going to do there. We also discussed the Patrick Peterson situation and what can potentially come of that. We also mentioned the fact that, will the Cardinals add more players? As of right now, TBD. So let's go and close up shop right now, ladies and gentlemen. I think a lot of people in the chat have a lot of high praise for Zay Jones, and you should. You should. He's had a lot of success in the NFL. Will he be better? The best slot guy we had? I mean, he has a lot of, tread on his tires. So he could very well be the best option for the Cardinals in the slot position. And then last year, also keep in mind, he was suspended for the first 5 games of the season as well. So now we're actually getting him from the start of the jump of the season. Maybe he does make have a bigger impact than we're all thinking of. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate y'all for tuning in. We're gonna have this 45-minute podcast. Appreciate you guys for up and foremost being here. Smack the like button. We are in the heart of the off season right now, where all we got right now to look forward to is going to be the schedule release. That's going to be dropping on Wednesday, May 14th, I believe is what it was. But yes, I'll confirm a little later on. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. We will be closing up shop right now. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Smack the like button here on your way out. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, go Cardinals.